I know you're with me. And pillar four is one of my favorite pillars. You see, we have been talking about all these great things and all these developments and all this wealth building and all of this job creation. But there's one thing that I learned from our ancestors. You know, when I was learning from how the other people governed this world, the likes of the Egyptians and the King Solomons and the Mansa Musas and all the Americas and Europeans, they took one thing seriously. The Africans are not taking it serious. And that is reserves, reserves, reserves. Even an ant stores food. You need to store things. You need to have reserves. We are a nation of 33 million people. What have we prepared for our future? Where is our oil reserves? Where is our gold reserves? I mean, up until recently, we had only 7 tons in our central bank. And this information is public information. Up until recently. I don't know if it's really gotten to 14 now, because the last time they needed more tons just to borrow money. But that's all. And you have the likes of multinational companies like the Goldfields, and they have moved 300s of tons from this country, and we can only have 7 tons as our reserves. Why is Qatar keeping 500 tons as reserves? Why does England have 3,000 something just gold reserves? Why? I mean, what is it going to cost us to build our own hard rock mining? To go for the target, I want to take that first 200 tons as reserves in this country. I will do whatever it takes because I already have the gold on the ground. And we, as the new force, as the new generational leaders who are thinking with vision, we would make sure that we create that reserves for gold, and fund or money will not be a problem. But not only that do you need in reserves, not just gold or not just oil. Some of the biggest things in this world, you'll be surprised, is the food we eat every day. It's the basic necessity. And if you can have that, you have the opportunity and the power to feed the world. So we intend to build the biggest seedling bank and have food security for 100 years. It's called agro reserves. That's what we need. We would nurture this. We would actually feed this. And we are going to have food for a good 100 years. Reserves. The farmers will buy from us. If Ivory Coast run out of cocoa, they will buy from us. If India needs food, they will buy from us. This will make us like Joseph, feeding the 7 years of famine because we have kept the reserves. There are minerals that we can keep reserves. There is copper, there is iron, there is bauxite. All we have to do is keep extracting, keep creating the jobs with the people and letting them have the chance to be able to bring these things out of the ground and keep it as reserves. Whenever you refine any of this or you plant any of this, the value can be from times 5 to 10 or 15. It quadruples, it triples, it multiplies. Well, I've been talking about food, I've been talking about good reserves, I've been talking about food reserves. All these reserves, 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 it's for the states, it's for the nation. This is what I call a Japadier, the real Japadier. Because you need an equity of what belongs to you. As one, we have to have a share of whatever that is on our grounds. We have to get jobs from it. We have to create wealth out of it. And we have to get the skill set out of what belongs to us. It's on our ground. We are the landlords of Ghana. It should be shared among us equally. But with all the reserves, there's one thing that I would like to add, and I know we probably never thought of it. But why do we buy money? Why do we have to go to England or go to Switzerland, to Delarue, to print our money? And after we fly or ship the money, before we have money, what happened to the industrial power that we're creating now? We are going to print money at home. We don't need to go to England or America to print money. We don't need to go anywhere else to go and buy food and bring it here. We don't need to pay 7 times the taxes of whatever that is already in our country and someone has just packaged it. We go and buy it for premium price and bring it back here. That stops because we are going to create it here. Now that we have more reserves, reserves, and have even cash reserves, what is next? Fellow Ghanaians, I like to say this. Pillar 5, it's from the bottom of my heart. And this, even when we are not here, this should take us through the centuries. This should not make you just remember me. This should make you know that when I'm not here, my absence will be felt. Because I have found a way to take you back to Susu, where you came from, how your ancestors, your older gods, your fathers survived in the 500 BCs. We are going to create the National Sovereign Wealth Fund. This is the new IMF. Well, at this very point, Ghana is going to help me launch the new IMF because verbally it said, but physically and mentally, we are about to implement it. This pillar is a new policy and it would distract, disrupt, and dissolve. But eventually, it will rebuild our heritage value. In the past, our minerals have been extracted and exported for pennies. We're ending it. The National Sovereign Wealth Fund is the new IMF, independent and autonomous. It will collect every reserves and it will keep it and it will protect it. Will nobody have to pretend you're not accountable or responsible for our own anymore because now it's secured within the National Fund. And if anybody needs anything within the ministries or the government, let them go to the fund and they will know this fund has more wealth than IMF or the World Bank can ever give them. And they will know it all came from these grounds. It's the reserves, your gold, your cocoa, your 100 years of seedling banks, your tax reserves. I mean, feed the fund. I mean, 100 million barrels of oil, 100 years of seedling reserves. All of this is going to be in the Wealth Fund of Ghana. Now, let me tell you the interesting thing about the tax reserves. To increase our reserves, we decided that we're going to minimize the corruption in the tax sector. Because you can see in the box, maybe there is, let me see if I have a tax reserve box here, something to explain it better. But you can see that we have almost 45% of royalties, of taxes, of many things that we collect. And yet, we don't see that value. What we are saying now is that we simply are going to take 30% of all gold extracted, all minerals extracted as income tax, no royalties, nothing. 30% of everything extracted from the multinationals, and it goes directly into our reserves. And that's where we quadruple the value. We multiply the value. So our taxes, one, is not going to go missing again. But two, is going to be in the form of raw material. And three, our industrial platforms will quadruple that. We need the reserves. That determines how rich we are, how wealthy we are in a country. And for me, we have found something good for Ghana. I hope the African countries can take this blueprint as well and start making sure that they have their own reserve banks, just like all the first class countries in this world. They have reserves.